What's up, guys? Blue Chip Sports Prep. We are back. Sorry we were not going last week. We had some other prior obligations and things going on. But listen, hey, Blue Chip Sports Prep, we're ready to rock this week. Coach Z and then Coach Todd Kelly, founder of Kelly College Consulting, all the way from Dallas, Texas, as usual. We're super excited today. We got a really, really good topic that, like we were saying before we got recording with this, it can go into a lot of depth. So we really want to try and dial it in as best as we can. And before we get started with that, Coach Kelly, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm just really excited to be back. Sorry about last week, but yeah, happy to be back here. And I'm actually, obviously I'm located in Dallas, but I'm back in my hometown of Chicago today. So really excited, to obviously kind of get this started today and to kind of be back in the Midwest. So.
Yeah. So we want to talk a lot about these showcases and off-season camps. We're assuming that you are a junior, you are going into your senior year. However, if you are younger than that, you're also going to be exploring these camps and these showcases. And we wanted to give you kind of an overview and dig deep into what they are. We wanted to talk about how you can prepare for those. We want to talk a little bit of a strategy, how to conduct yourself while you're at the camp, because that really can make a big difference. Of course, you young student athletes, you are going to develop as a human being as you're a young student athlete, and you will learn as you grow. However, we want to limit your mistakes while you're at camp so that you can put yourself in a position to be the most successful. And then last but not least, we want to talk about how to choose a camp and how important that is. And I think out of everything, I think that in itself is everything. And then you prepare for it, and so on. So, Coach, I will give you the floor to talk. If you want to go ahead and get started with it, we'll talk about the camps and what they are.
Okay. And definitely. Now, camps, most colleges have camps, whatever sport it is you play, whether it's football, basketball, tennis, track, whatever the case is, most schools, colleges will have a summer camp. And a lot of times these camps are, to be honest with you, sometimes they're just money grabs for the specific school or specific university that will, help, the assistant coaches' salaries and things of that nature. But a lot of the camps can have a good purpose and they can be useful. Now, a lot of times at these camps, what will happen is, coaches will put you through drills. They'll get a chance to see your skill set. There'll obviously be some competition. And a lot of times there'll be some type of education. And a lot of times these camps are really good for you to be able to get in front of these coaches and for them to be able to see you. And it's also a good opportunity for us, essentially an unofficial visit to the school, because while you're at the school, you'll get a chance to see the facilities, you'll get a chance to see the locker rooms, you'll get a chance to see the campus, you'll typically get a chance to eat in the cafeteria, and then obviously you'll be able to meet the coaching staff. So a lot of times these camps are really good for student athletes, but the key is picking the right camp, because a lot of the major universities around the country have camps. And a lot of student athletes think, hey, if I go to this camp at, UCLA or USC or University of Texas or, Duke or North Carolina, that, hey, I'm going to start being recruited by these coaches at those particular schools. That is not typically going to happen by going to the camps. So I think you need to kind of have a mindset of what's realistic, what's not realistic, and what is the purpose of these camps before you go to them.
Yeah. And also, too, you may say, well, okay, so coaches, yeah, it may be a money grab. It may be a situation for them. They may not be putting a whole lot of stock into it. But always remember, they're trying to fill a database. But you got to look at it from your point of view, too. You got to say, okay, well, I'm going to a camp and this is important for me. And what am I going to get out of this camp as opposed to what are they getting out of it? Don't always look at a camp and think, well, you're going there and you got to just bow down to them or whatever, especially if you're a young kid. It's like you go to these camps, go and enjoy it, go have fun with it, go learn some stuff on the field, but also go learn off the field. Me personally, I know a good friend of mine, Brad Cagle, shout out. He's a Bethel College quarterback coach. I think he's trying to make his way up to OC. But listen, he's going the right direction now. He's starting to do those off-season camps, but he only does a couple of them. But in these camps, what he's doing is he's also adding watching film in class type of stuff too. So you're getting more of not just on the field, go and just show what you can do. And you just only have so much time and then boom, you're out. The camps are starting to get a little bit more classy with it. Not all, and the majority they're not going to. It truly is a money grab. But with him, he's starting to go into that direction. It's starting to get guys in the classroom, starting to learn about X's and O's. So it really gives you an opportunity to learn, right? Because you still have a year left, you still have maybe 2 years left. So really ask these coaches as much as you possibly can when you go there. But as far as what a camp is, Coach, you pretty much just laid it out as much as possible. I mean, there are different types of camps. Some of you'll be invited to these camps, and some you won't be. You just show up. So, but I think that's a real good segue to talk about choosing a camp. So when we're choosing these showcases and these camps, so now you know what a camp is. So choosing a camp, and we talk about this all the time, it's very vital and very important that if you do want just to go and get a shirt and get the experience of being around 1,000 guys, go to the big University of Texas camp, go to the University of Southern California camp, blow that money away, be around some people, maybe meet a couple kids. That's really what it is. There's just so many kids there. It's really hard to get individual coaching and get that personal communication that you're looking for. Because really, when you're going into this, your strategy, like I was just mentioning, you want to get something out of it, man.
Absolutely.
Like you want to go to it and you want to get things out of it. So kind of back up before we're kind of choosing the camp. Well, it kind of goes into the camp. Like if you're choosing a camp, figure out what the camp is all about.
Right.
Because if the camp is promoting the exact same thing as all these other camps are, then it's kind of like, okay, well, then maybe we should dial this in a little bit more. I think it's fun if you go to the bigger school camps because, you can go and you can experience it, a big time atmosphere. You're going to be in their stadium most likely. Some schools will have you on their practice field. It really doesn't matter. They schedule the framework for most of those camps is very similar to a practice that you would see at the next level. So they're going to dial in the periods, different periods. Like in high school, you don't really period things out. First period is indie, second period is this, third period. They do it like that. Nothing really changes from that regard. The good news is you do get a chance at times to meet these coaches. And some of these camps are 2 days. There are multiple days where you can stay there. So always go and meet those coaches as best as possible. Now, I don't want to go off the rails too much, but when you're choosing a camp, you want to make sure, in my opinion, as well as Coach Kelly, we are on the same page as this. 1 or 2 of those big ones is cool, but you should not definitely overindulge and think, hey, I have to go to those if I want to be a D1 athlete, which, by the way, we've mentioned this 1,000 times. And in my speaking engagements, I'm definitely going to be asking you young student athletes, are you good enough, right? Because if you're constantly dialed into being a Division I player, you're only going to go to Division I camps, and you're going to think you're going to get all these looks and stuff, and that's not going to happen. So when you're choosing camps, make sure you go to 1 or 2 of those if you want to have some fun, but you also want to go within arm's reach. And depending on your state where you're located, they may not even have them. So you might have to go and travel a little bit, which is fine. But I'm in California. Coach Kelly's in Texas. He's in Illinois right now. They probably got so many locally and close by. But I always say, listen, it doesn't matter if it's D2 or even 1AA all the way down to NAI. JUCOs don't really do camps yet. But so the goal is to go and to reach out to the closest schools within arm's reach because they're going to be cheaper. You're going to get more personal contact. And you're going to be able to spend more time on the field. Those are the kind of camps where they go a little bit longer than they should, or they'll spend a little bit more time with you kids. And like I said, you're not going to break the bank. And and then like I said, my buddy, shout out Brad Cagle. They're starting to do a little bit more to build relationships where they go in person. And they'll film you. Sometimes they'll film you. Sometimes they won't, give you that personal connection. So I don't know if you wanted to dial in a little bit more on that, Coach, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about, being realistic, like you said, going to maybe 1, maybe 2 of the big camps are maybe a good idea. But I think, for example, if you're a student athlete and you don't have any Division I interest right now, going to those camps is not going to be your ticket to start getting Division I interest. you should probably look at going to camps at schools at the level where you may be able to play at, whether it's Division II, Division III, NAI, because then you can go to those camps and then potentially then be recruited by those particular coaches. But I think as you approach camps, as we kind of talk about preparing for these camps now, a couple things you have to do is figure out what are your goals by going. You know, is your goal to be able to get better? Is your goal to be able to learn from the coaching staff? Is your goal to just be able to see the campus and be on a Division I campus? So what is your goals going into the camp? And I think a few things that you really need to emphasize is that if you're going to a camp, you really need to try to have some interaction with the coaches. You know, ask them, hey, coach, you know, what can I improve on? What level do you think I can play at? You know, tell me some things that can help make me better during my season. So, you know, having interaction with the coaches. Also, when you do go to these camps, do your research. Do your research. You should know who the head coach is, who the position coach is, or whatever position it is you're playing, who the recruiting coordinator is. You should know these things going in. Most of the schools have the schedule of their camps online, so you know kind of what you're going to be doing when you go to the camp. So that's something else. And also, when you go to the camp, make sure you're prepared. And what I mean by prepared is make sure you're in good shape. You know, the worst thing you can do is ever go to a camp or go to any type of event where there can be an evaluation and you're not in shape or you're not physically prepared. So those are some things that are also very important. And again, making sure that, you know, you do your research and again, a lot of camps are overnight, which is good because that can give you an opportunity to stay in the school's dorm, eat in their cafeteria, and kind of give you an idea of kind of what a day or two would be like in the life of a college player, whether it's football, basketball, or whatever the case may be. So really just making sure you're prepared, doing your research, and being realistic about these camps is something that's really, really important.
Fantastic. No, that's great. I want to go a little bit different direction. I want to talk about, so when we're preparing for these camps, and some kids just think, well, I'm just going to show up, I'm going to show out, I'm going to ball out, they're going to remember me, I'm in a database, I'll get a phone call, whatever, message later on. It's not really the case. Right. So you have to be proactive when you're dealing with these off-season camps. So if you want to, we're talking about if you want to get the best out of a camp, listen, here's what we do. This is what me and Coach Kelly, we talk about and what we're all about. Listen, you've got a couple ways of communication that are super vital, but you got to really know how to use it. So you've got your social media and you've got your emails, right? You're not going to get a coach's personal information to be able to communicate with them. It's just not going to happen. So I would just say one of the biggest things is make sure and communicate via email. Like I said, and then social media. Sorry, I was distracting his head. But listen, first things first, most of you young student athletes are really good with your Twitter. Go research all these coaches. We've already talked a little bit about in the past about who to research, but I'm going to tell you again. So listen, go find a low-level coach. Could be a recruiting coach. Could be a tight end coach.
Could be the director of operations,
director of operations. Yeah, could be somebody in the recruiting office, player personnel. Go find somebody that's in the bottom that will be there. How do you find out if they're going to be there? Just message them. Just see what's up. Just ask them, see if you're going to be at the camp. Listen, I'm going to be at the camp. Super excited to come to it. Here's my information. Whether they look at the information or not, they'll know that, oh, yeah, this guy, he reached out to me. And then that will move forward into, you know, when you actually get to the camp, they may know you, they may not know you. But if it's a low-level coach, they're probably not getting flooded with these kind of messages. I almost promise you they're not. What we're giving you guys is something that's very unique. You'd think it's common sense, but you'd be surprised. So that's your Twitter. The next thing would be also IG. A lot of young coaches use Instagram. So make sure you have all your profiles and everything dialed in, but message them at the same time. Same thing. Message them with all your information, your highlights. Say, I'm going to be there. Super excited, coach, whatever. Also emails. You know, we're going to have all those email templates and stuff like that for these camps, definitely going into it. But the whole idea is making sure that you message these coaches pre-camp or showcase and making sure that they have all your information. They know who you are. And then when you get to the actual camp, go and find them immediately. Most times when you go to camps, first things first, your registration, you're trying to fill it out. They may even be filling out the registration for you. And so you'll end up getting to know them. And if they didn't check out your message or they didn't open the DM, listen, tell them, have them pull their phone out right there, man. Just say, hey, listen, or you pull your phone out and show it. Say, hey, I'm DM you. You know, like force and press the action because you're paying for it. You're trying to get something out of it. Remember, it's about you. It's not them. And you got to be a businessman. It's that's what it's all about. I don't want to see if you wanted to add on top of that.
Hey, I just wanted to reiterate how important that is, what you said about reaching out to those coaches beforehand and reaching out, because again, don't really reach out to the head coach. Head coach is not going to really read any emails, but like you said, the position coach, the assistant coaches, director of operations, video coordinator. And the reason it's important to reach out is because you want coaches to be looking for you already and to know that you're there. You don't want to have to go to the camp and do something spectacular for them to notice you. You want to already come into the camp and them thinking, okay, I know this kid, he's from West High School, in California, and he's his name is Todd, so I'm gonna be looking for this kid. So that way they're already looking for you before you get there, and they don't have to find you. And that's really one of the more important things. And I think we can kind of transition to kind of talking about once you're at the camp.
Sure.
What are some things you should be doing? When you're at the camp, first of all, behavior, character are at the top of the list in terms of things that you need to be aware of. So you need to be a good teammate. You need to be a guy that has a good attitude. When coaches are talking to you, you need to look them in the eye. When any drill that you're doing, you need to make sure that you run all the way through the lines. You need to make sure you complete everything. The last thing any coach wants to see, especially if you're trying to impress those coaches to potentially be recruited by them, is they don't want to see anybody who's a slacker, who's coming up last in the sprints, or who's the last one, in a drill, or who's lazy, or who's dragging, or who's not energetic, or someone who has a bad attitude. These are all things that will absolutely get you unrecruited or will not get you on that recruiting list. So just really be aware of your behavior, of your work ethic, how you talk to the coaches. When you meet a coach, hey, looking him in the eye, giving him a strong handshake, when you're talking to, the other teammates there, because one other thing camps are good for is making friends. Because I went to a lot of camps when I was younger, and a lot of the kids I met at camps, I became friends with them, and we became friends, throughout the years. And so that's another opportunity to be able to meet other student athletes similar to yourself who can potentially help you, who you may be able to train with, or who you may even have to compete with. But at the camp, just make sure you're really aware of your appearance, of your demeanor, and of your attitude, because those things that can all get you crossed off of a recruiting list. And so you never want to do anything that's going to get you unrecruited. So just make sure you're aware of your appearance, of your behavior, and of your attitude at all times, because those are things that can take you really, really far.
Well, when I'm hearing what you're saying it's like when you go to these camps, you may not get looked at, you may not get recruited, you may not get all these things that are positive that you would think out of it. But one thing you can do is you can hurt your chances.
Absolutely.
Right? That is the big thing. I mean, everybody starts with an A, but over the course of the camp, they may just start B, C, D. That's the key, man, is that you can hurt your stock going to a camp. You may not make your stock better. You may not get a little bit more eyeballs on you, but you can definitely hurt yourself. Now, keep in mind, you do go out there and you may be that kid. Like when I'm coaching off-season, all-star games, there's kids that I have no idea who they are. I may profile them because they're too short or whatever. But then all of a sudden I see them out there and I'm like, who in the world is that guy? That does happen. That's a real thing. But I promise you, if all of a sudden, you have a bad attitude, or somebody's always pushing or not wanting to, just anything negative, right? You think about it. It's a practice, right? It's a competitive practice with even better talent, even better players, way better coaches, of course, no dogging on your high school coaches, and it's more dialed in. So when you get there, I mean, it's an interview. You're trying to interview yourself in many different aspects of that. And you can hurt yourself. And I had a podcast recently where the young student athlete was telling me about the young football player. He's a receiver. And I specifically asked him that. So have you seen kids hurt their chances? And he said 100%. Guys throwing their helmets, or not, depending, it could be helmet, but throwing helmets, throwing gloves, yelling, screaming, or on the other end of it, being super cocky, talking trash, just being that kind of guy. Remember, if you are in an interview, you want to do whatever it takes to tell a coach, hey, when I'm in your program in a year or 2 years, am I going to be a liability? am I going to be a person that you're going to have to deal with? Coaches don't want to deal with anything. If you guys didn't know, I've coached at the collegiate level. Coach Kelly has at the collegiate level as a head coach, correct?
Yes.
Right. So we don't want to deal with anybody. We will help you develop. There's a difference between dealing with you and developing. I'm going to maybe make a shirt on that one. You can clip that one. But coaches want kids that are going to come in, are going to work, and are going to do what they're told, and are going to try hard. They're going to develop. You're going to make mistakes, but we don't want to have to deal with you. So when you're going to these camps, definitely take advantage of that as best as you can. And we won't take this super deep into it, but just to kind of recap, talking about what a camp is, making sure that you know what you're going into and understanding what a camp is. I know I keep just saying that again, reciting that, but just knowing what a camp is and know what you're getting yourself into. Because if you don't, then you're going to be, your hopes could be hurt. You know what I mean? Your hopes and dreams. Oh my gosh, this is what I expected. I promise you, when you go to a big camp, those big Division I camps, you're going to get your feelings hurt. It's going to happen because you're not going to get all that personal time. You think that you're going to go hang out with a celebrity, and the celebrity talks to you maybe 3 words, and it's usually get on the line. You know what I'm saying? That's all you're going to get from those guys. The next thing is being prepared, having questions, question coaches. We talked about emails and social media going into it, making sure that after a camp you do email them, just give them a thank you email, thank you DM. But I would also, approach them afterwards, those coaches that you tried to approach at the beginning, and then just say, what should I work on, coach? Pleasure. Thank you. That is an underrated thing, man. Guys just say, you take a knee, coach says, thanks for coming to the camp. And then boom, we're out of there. You be the last one to leave. If the coach is trying to be the first one out of there, go grab him by the arm and say, listen, I came here because I want to meet you. Coaches love that too. I mean, I can't imagine that a coach would be like, I don't want to talk to you. They want to talk to you because their job's on the line too, bringing in kids, players. Strategy during camp, making sure your behavior is proper, you're locked in, you're dialed in, you're working hard, trying to develop, trying to get better. And then talking about choosing your camp, making sure that you choose the right camp that's close by, that it's cheaper. You can build a relationship with the coaches. If they don't need your position going into next year, guess what? Somebody that they'll be in contact with, because coaches go to their own camps, which are conventions, and they communicate. And most coaches are pretty cool. Maybe if it's not in the same league or, your rival school, but they'll say, hey, yeah, I got a kid over here. A couple of years ago, I had a good friend of mine. He was at Penn State, and he was recruiting our school, junior college. And he was like, hey, we don't need him, but I know so-and-so over at San Jose State or wherever. And he'll get on the phone right there. And I'll tell him, pull your phone out.
Right.
So, Coach, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah. And, everything you said was just phenomenal. And I think just to kind of take it a step further, make sure that when you go to a camp, you at least connect with one coach on staff. Meaning like obviously before the camp, you probably want to email multiple coaches on staff, but at least make sure you really make a connection with at least one coach. Doesn't matter what coach. It could be, receivers coach, the running back coach, the recruiting coordinator, the head coach, the OC, the DC, whatever. If you other sports, just make sure that there's at least one coach on that staff that during the camp you go up to, you introduce yourself, and you build some type of connection. That way you have a connection to that particular university. And that way you can, maybe, DM that coach or tweet at them and say, hey, and kind of build a relationship where you continue to email them and just say, hey, coach, can I just kind of keep you updated on my progress throughout the year? But make sure you make a connection with at least one coach. So if you're a student athlete and you go to a camp and you don't at least introduce yourself and make a connection with at least one coach on staff, you've wasted your time. You've really wasted your time. And one other thing, I know, Coach Z, you talked about this, about dealing with you, and I forgot the other thing you said, but do you want coaches to deal with you? And you don't want a coach to have to deal with you, because the one thing coaches want is a kid that's low or no maintenance. Low or no maintenance, meaning that coaches want to know that, hey, this kid's going to show up on time. This kid's going to take care of business in the classroom. This kid's going to have a good work ethic. This kid's never going to be in trouble. He's never going to have attitude problems. He's never going to, be doing stuff on campus that he's not supposed to be doing. I'm not going to have to worry about Is he, in bed sleep at night, or is he out at a bar? I'm not gonna have to worry about, is he, studying, or is he playing video games? Those type of things. Coaches want to know that they have kids that they don't have to worry about, because there's so many things coaches have to worry about. So if you're a headache, or if you're somebody that's high maintenance, chances that you're going to get recruited pretty slim, unless you're just an elite talent.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll dial in at maybe another episode or whatever. We'll talk about, those invitations and non-invites, those kind of things. We'll talk about that maybe down the road. But listen, hey, always appreciate it, Coach Kelly. This is Coach Z, Walk On Warrior. Check out Kelly College Consulting. If you are in the area, you may be running into Coach Kelly face-to-face. He's out there in Dallas, Texas. He also goes to a lot of those Midwest states. But he is in the same boat as I am. We're all about, helping you, the young student athletes, get prepared for that next level, if you so choose to take that route. And we hope that we can, take that percentage and make it a little bit higher. But it's all about education, and it's all about you guys. And we like to end it this way, but it's not about us. Listen, it's about you guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
All right.